Space Gardener here, and I'm going to talk about legacy today. Specifically, the lack of legacy in the modern West. We're obviously a very individualistic series of societies, and when you look at some of the rest of the modern world, but especially when you look back through history, familial legacy has been absolutely central to the lives of most people throughout human history. And I've been thinking about it a lot recently, having kids myself, but also with the state of our societies today. You know, you look at an issue like migration. A lot of the people that we're bringing into the West right now come from places that still have large families and support one another. You know, they may come from a more collectivist society. That's fairly common. And this puts us at a distinct disadvantage as Western families. You know, for a few different reasons. For one, if, as we've been raised to do, many of us try to support our own households as a couple, or perhaps even just as an individual. And when you consider just how much resources, how much of your time, your energy, your work goes towards supporting that household, and then you look at the fact that many immigrant families have large groups living in a single residence. And this isn't to complain. I actually think that's a great strategy in many ways and can allow you to enjoy a much higher standard of living while putting in fewer hours. So, to me, familial legacy is just one aspect of modern Western living that needs a bit of a rethink. And you look back at a civilization like, let's say, the Romans, right? Now, the Romans, we often hear of patricians and plebes. And what is it that made the Romans patricians? Well, they were able to trace their family history back to the original Roman Senate and the families that were members of that senatorial class. And they traced that lineage, you know, going forward through hundreds of years in Roman history. And I consider that to be such a beautiful thing, to have people from your own family that you look up to as historical figures, that you can measure your worth as an individual to great people in your own family's history. You can try to build on that familial legacy. And so to me, although there are many dark aspects to these times we're living in, we always need to look for those silver linings. And as I've said before, I think it makes a lot of sense for people to live with their families, you know, just to support each other through this difficult economy. And I see that as one big positive, is that maybe it's a chance for us to start to re-embrace familial legacy and to have our own children interested, more involved in the lives of their grandparents, their cousins, their uncles, their aunts. And this is something I genuinely hope that the West can embrace, because I think it may also help with the declining birth rates issue. Again, we know that families are squeezed. We know it's difficult to have children, you know, when you just have a single couple both working and trying to somehow find time to start a family. It's an impossible situation. And if we're creative and we're smart, we can find ways to negotiate through this time. And so anyway, that's my thoughts. Re-embracing familial legacy may be one positive that comes out of this age we're living through.